Are your trapped emotions causing problems in your life? And do you believe, like I do, that the emotional wounds of humanity must be healed to stop the tragic cycle where hurt people are hurting people? Then you must tune in with Gina Gayle Gray, who is a freedom coach and an oracle. Did you know we have 4 aspects of ourselves? She helps to bring awareness to that. How she serves her clients as an oracle. How she guides her clients to find their own, what she calls solutions. And her amazing story of how she used telepathy to communicate with her son, Spencer, who was never able to speak words or move his body independently. This is an amazing feel-good interview chock full of great information. Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life. Hi, everyone. I'm speaking to you today from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could not be more delighted to have the pleasure of interviewing Gina Gayle Gray, a freedom coach, counselor, and oracle who believes that the emotional wounds of humanity must be healed to stop the tragic cycle where hurt people hurt people. I could not agree more. In addition to earning her degree in psychology, Gina, who will be speaking to us today from Mexico, has studied counseling psychology, is a master practitioner of Neuro-Linguistic programming, is a certified integration life coach, has a certification to practice Biofield Tuning. She is an Emotion Code Practitioner, and she has a Wholistic Nutrition Coach Certification. These powerful healing modalities enable Gina to help her parents heal their emotional wounds and remember who they are at their inner source, their spirit soul, which empowers them to strive for mind, body, and spirit soul health and wellness freedom. She also guides her clients to find their own solutions, which are answers that come to them directly from the soul. And Gina has also co-authored a book with her son, Spencer, who transitioned to the other side at the age of 23, titled Listen to the Silence, Messages and Miracles from Spencer, Who Never Spoke Words. It is a heartfelt and healing book that shares the inspiring messages referred to as Spencpirations that Spencer transmitted to Gina after he transcended his physical body. I'm looking forward to asking Gina about the importance of bringing awareness to the 4 aspects of self, the ways cleaning and clearing our bodies can contribute to optimum health and well-being, her service to clients as an oracle, how she guides her clients to solutions, the book she co-authored with her son Spencer, her healing grief retreats, and more for what is surely going to be an incredibly enlightening, insights-filled interview with a very gifted healer. Hi, Gina. A truly warm welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Thank you. It's my privilege to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to have a wonderful interview. Hurt people. That's the whole reason for Grief and Rebirth podcast, so that people can heal and stop hurting each other. Mm-hmm. So let's start with your history from the beginning, as they say. Let's begin at the beginning. So I know that your dad inspired your calling to be a mental health counselor. Could you share your relationship with your dad with us and the ways he taught you that everyone needs to be listened to and deserves to be heard? Which would heal the planet itself if other people live that way.
Right. Yeah. My dad was an incredible man. He was there for everyone. He was a very quiet man and a very strong man, strong in presence. Spoke very few words, listened always, and he was a carpenter by trade. So I grew up watching my dad be there for everyone else in a very quiet and powerful listening capacity, always with care, compassion, and concern. And I realized later that that was my inspiration to go to college and get my degree in psychology and become a counselor. And then my dad, he suddenly dropped his body on Christmas Day,
Oh my.
1999.
Oh my.
It was
Unexpected, completely unexpected.
completely. Everyone on that side of my family, they know how to have a heart attack. The heart immediately explodes and there is no going back. And we didn't think that this would happen to my dad, even though it had happened to his parents and his brothers and
Wow.
others. But yes, it did indeed happen. And it was a huge loss. It was the first time in my memory, my experience of wailing. My soul actually wailed for my dad for many days. And my dad was there for me in spirit. So that was really my first introduction to communication, very powerful communication, and receiving messages from someone who had transcended and was in the spirit world.
Did it just come into your head as messages? How did you know it was your dad, and how did you hear that?
Oh my goodness, it was incredibly powerful. One of the things my dad used to do to wake us up was he had a little procession of things. He would come into the room and he would turn the light on and turn the radio on, and then he would come back into the room and he would hit your feet, shake the covers. And then he would come back into the room, take the covers off your feet and tickle your feet.
He sounds like a delight.
Yeah. So that's the way he was in life. He would just show up, say something, do something, walk away, give you time to digest what he was offering. So after he passed, I spent the night in bed with my mother, trying to console my mother, who was, in the deep shock and sorrow. Absolutely. And about 2:00 in the morning, I wake up because I feel the covers moving, and I wake up and I look and I can physically see the covers moving at my feet. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it was Dad showing up in his familiar way, and message after message after message for me, for my mother, for the family.
And they all just came into your head.
Yes, we all have ordinary senses, the 5 ordinary senses that everybody's familiar with. Well, we also have extraordinary versions of all of those senses. And my particular strongest one is the audience. My extraordinary sense of hearing. So if the attention comes into my greater mind, the mind with the capital M, and it's usually an auditory message. So I've gotten really good at listening. And so that's how Dad started. And then he used several methods throughout the next weeks and months. And I journaled everything because it was such a powerful connection to continue to receive his guidance and to feel his love. And I would share his messages with some, and I would say, do with it what you may. They either believe.
Did it help your mom? I'm sure you shared them with your mom.
It did. And my mom was able to talk to me about a vision she had had the night before my dad passed. And so my mother was a very religious person, not spiritual, but very religious and deep religious programming for what she believed we are to know and what we are not to know, which of course created a great divide between my mother and I from the time I was very young, because I questioned things that I wasn't.
You didn't live by the rules she'd been taught, obviously.
No. And it was a very interesting dynamic because my mother was really good at talking the talk and my dad was really good at walking the walk. So it was, it was a beautiful upbringing, beautiful family. But I imagine what I said to her was helpful, whether she could acknowledge that or not, because it was a very deep and very spiritual message. So I know it helped her soul.
That's great. Well, let's I also want to ask you, because you've spent your entire life knowing the value of freedom. That's like a really big thing to you. And so could you explain for everyone why you refer to yourself as a freedom coach? And what does that have to do with what you call the spirit soul?
Mm. Well, my personal definition of freedom is I have this knowing. I know that I am the power with the force to make my own choices and create my own reality in every aspect of my life: mind, body, spirit, and soul. And my experience with life and with showing up in service to others throughout life, there's so many parts of us that are not free. And when we actually acknowledge that and realize that there is a way to freedom, whether it's physical freedom, if you're not healthy and your physical body, you're not in good relationship with your physical body, and your physical body is failing you, that's not freedom. Same thing can happen with your mind. The mental aspect of us can be less than free if it's captured by all the programmed thinking, all of the rules and regulations that you're not in alignment with. Little by little, you become imprisoned within your own mind.
And we all know people who are like that.
We do, and they don't even know that they're not free, because they're domesticated, they're socialized, they're all of these things, but those really are not free. And now, in the world that we're living in now, where so many of our freedoms have been threatened, it's more important than ever to really focus on mind, body, and spirit, soul freedom, which comes from within. It's within our own power. When people say things to me like I'm so lucky, I've stopped being triggered by that, and I can just immediately let people, luck has nothing to do with it. Choice has everything to do with it, because every moment is a choice point.
That's so true. That is so true. People don't even know they have a choice.
I know, and that's disempowering. They have been disempowered, and no one has taken anything from us. We've given it away. And different populations on this beautiful planet have given away their freedoms to different levels, in exchange for this or that. And it's a very powerful concept that I'm more aware of now than ever, because I've made the move from Texas to Mexico, and there's a whole different definition of physical freedom where I live now.
Well, how is it different for you?
Well, the rules are completely different. Whenever I made the move to come here, there was a lot of downsizing. So there was a lot of liberating myself from materialistic.
From all the stuff.
All the stuff. I'm trying to say it nicely. And I still have plenty of stuff. But yeah, the recognition that program that to measure our success means we have a lot of things, material things, financial things, those are important too. Wealth is important, although wealth is stagnant, prosperity is flow. So I think that's one of the keys, and that's one of the things that I help people really look at. How are you measuring your success with your wealth? Is it wealth or prosperity? If you have a lot of things, but you're still not happy, you're still not fulfilled, then that's not the answer.
Something else is missing. So when you talk about the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the spirit soul body, you say that cleaning and clearing those four bodies contributes to emotional health and well-being. How do you do that? If someone comes to you and there's certain things that you do to help them, and you can hone in on what needs cleaning?
Yeah, I actually guide them to hone in on it, because everybody is a healer. You're a healer of one person, and that's self. And physical body healing is it's so important to do detox, cleanse, water fasts, because that clears and cleans the physical body. And there's a lot of debris in the physical body, in the environment, in the atmosphere. We're being poisoned all the time. So it's pretty easy to convince people these days of the need to detox and cleanse. So that's clearing and cleaning the physical vessel. Well, it's just as important. You can have and there's a lot of people who have physical body health, athletes and people who do a lot of things to live a healthy lifestyle. However, if their emotional being is not clear and clean, they're still not healthy. And I have, within the past couple of years, really come to realize the importance of separating, looking at the emotional being as a separate aspect, and then from the mental being, but then reconnecting everything. And of course, everything connects through the physical being. Everybody knows they have a physical being. And so I've recently decided that my specialty is being an emotional health coach and counselor. And I spent 40 years practicing mental health coaching and counseling. And I know from 40 years experience of focusing on the mental being, the importance, the missing link is this emotional being.
Can you explain to us the difference between the mental and the emotional? Because I think that some people lump them together as the same, but they're not.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I agree. And this has been a lot of my discovery in the past 5 years since Spencer left, and I have been doing all of this self work, trying to figure out my soul's purpose. And like I said, having practiced in the mental health capacity for many years, there's things are changing. The human is evolving, and in that evolving of humanity, more and more of us are aware of the fact that we have this physical being, but we also, that we can see, we can touch, we can feel with all of our ordinary senses. And we all also have this energetic being in the energy field. Some call it the aura, some call it the field, some call it the biofield. It's all of those things. And it's, if you can visualize it as your personal bubble. So your energy field starts right outside of your physical field. And the very first layer is actually the emotional being. And the next layer out is the mental being. And that's the way the energy field flows. There are layers, and there are differences in the things that are processed in those layers. So the very outer layer of the aura is actually the mental being. And the mental being is where the antennae are. That's where all the information comes into the human being from the mental, the outer part of the field, the actual field. And this is the mental being. I refer to it as the mental being with the capital M. It's the one that's really, really important. If we want to access information and go for the information that will promote our evolution, then we have to be very careful about where we're getting our information. Because we have another mind that's called the brain that's inside here. And that's the mind with the little m. Because the brain is just the physical processing center of all of this information. So when that information comes in through the mental being.
So the mental being is collecting data.
It is always collecting data. You know, the numbers go from 40,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And there's so much contamination in that because there's interference. There's energetic interference in the frequency. So we're being bombarded with all of the frequencies of lower energy thoughts. There's happenings, and it comes from social media, it comes from the news, it comes from negative people, it comes from horrific movies and stories that people tell that do not lift people up. They actually bring people down. So as all of those thoughts come in, thousands and thousands of day, and then they're exacerbated by EMF and 5G and radiation, and all these things we hear about are real. They're very interfering, and they create chaos. Well, as the energy comes into the energetic being, the very next layer before getting to the body, the physical body, is the emotional being. Well, the emotional being is tied directly to this thing in the center here called the heart. The mental being is tied to the brain. the emotional being is tied to the heart. And look where they're connected.
You're making a figure 8.
Yeah, infinity. And they are connected right here where our privilege of speaking words comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've done in the name of progress as humans is all these thoughts, all that comes in through the mental being, the emotional being just got in the way. It slowed us down. I don't have time to deal with that now, or that's not appropriate, or I've been told, or I don't want to feel that.
In other words, if the thoughts made you sad and you didn't want to go there, or the thoughts affected you in some way, you didn't
all of that, because I know every thought that comes in through that beautiful mental being is wired to go through the emotional being. That is the physical. I mean, that is the filter. And the filter is there for a reason. That's what makes us human beings. We have the ability to feel these emotions, and every thought evokes an emotion. So it's not just a thought coming in. And when you're babies, there's no separation in the brain. The brain is still connected. So babies know every thought comes with a feeling. That's why babies are constantly,
reacting.
They're absolutely expressing their feelings. They are feeling every thought and every emotion. And what do? We domesticate that out of them. We shut them down. We start telling them what they can and can't do based on all of these judgments. They're all judgments. And so as time goes on, people get so good at not feeling their emotions, and they start packing them away because they stop in the field right where they are. The filter becomes really cluttered and dirty and dehydrated because we learn how to just bypass it. We just go from thinking to doing, thinking to doing. Well, the world is full of people who decided thinking to doing was a good thing. They have no care, compassion, or concern for others. The community is lacking. And eventually people realize that because they don't have any connection to their own heart. Those are the people that people say, oh, they have no soul, they have no heart, that person is heartless, that person is, well, it's not that they don't have those things, it's that they chose to block those things.
They've disconnected from them.
Disconnected. Oh my gosh, disconnected. And sometimes they take it out and go put it in a closet somewhere. They're so far from, because they didn't want to be weighed down with that. So that's the energetic, that's the way I see the energetic field, the mental, and then the emotional, and then everything comes in through the body. The processing center in the body is the heart. So when I help people reconnect and find that, clear the trapped debris, the shit storms out of the field, when we clear those out and flow starts working again, every thought comes in, the emotion is acknowledged and felt, and that changes the trajectory of the action, the word, the deed, the next step. And
it gives them a new choice.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, because it's a choice using the entire being, because we have these aspects of ourself. We have a mental being. It's the one with the capital M is beautiful and wonderful. The one with the little m too. That my ego is my best friend. She has gotten me through some stuff. And, yeah. So I don't ever create contention with others' egos, because I want to make sure that it knows I don't want to dismiss it. I want to reconnect it to the heart and to the feeling aspect, because the mind has a heart and the heart has a mind, and they're all meant to be connected. They're all meant to work together. We need all of these aspects of ourselves, and we need them to be clear and clean. The physical body clear and clean, the mental body clear and clean, the emotional body clear and clean. Then naturally the spirit soul can do its thing.
Right. And it isn't weighed down by all of that other stuff.
Clutter.
Right.
Yeah.
The clutter. So let me ask you, so someone has lost someone, they're in the clutter called grief. And often grief brings up all the clutter, right? I mean, if you're grieving on a scale of 1 to 10, okay. But if you're grieving at a 20, that means you got a lot more clutter that's accumulated with that grief. So they come to Gina and they want help with that. How do you help them when they are grieving so tremendously, and they don't even know the half of what's going on for them or what is coming up for them. What is that process like, Gina?
Yeah, it's a completely different process than what has been taught by religion and society for so long. It has to start with the acknowledgement of, first of all, that emotion, the emotion of grief, and what my spirits, guides, and guards told me about grief, why it is so important and why it is such a core wound for so many people. Grief is the great teacher, and what it's here to teach is that we do care. Because I don't care who you think you are and how strong you think you are, when you get that call or you get that experience, and because
I know.
In that moment, grief is so powerful. And it's such a powerful gift, because at this point in the world, we all need to reconnect with how deeply we care. Because if we choose not to care, it's over. This is our chance to care. So what we do with grief, because we have not been supported properly in how to process it. So what we do is I see it as an umbrella. We pop up that umbrella because it's so powerful. It hurts so bad. Like I said, I wailed when I lost my dad, and I could hear myself, and I thought, that's different. But that was my soul, because we were so connected on a soul level. But that also means that connection will never go away when you learn how to find the new outlet for that and receive from them. They're plugging into you. But this umbrella of grief we pop up because we just say, we can't, it's too much, we can't, it's too much. And we're in that shock the first, few days or weeks. We're in that veil of shock where everything's foggy, which can protect us a bit. But then we continue to hold on to that umbrella. So here's grief raining down on us. Guess what's growing under the umbrella? All the other emotions that come with it, because that emotional being, it wants to get your attention. So there's shame, and there's fear, and there's doubt, and there's anger, and there's guilt, and there's hopelessness, and there's regret, and more shame. All of that is under that umbrella.
Right. And I always say, like, if you've had a trauma that's not healed, for instance, if people abandon you in your childhood or something, then you're going to feel even more abandoned. That abandonment issue will come up big time.
Oh yeah. It's under there too. So if you can just imagine, here's grief. Grief was there to teach you a lesson and to ask you to step right into that connection, which is why the dying process, the way that it was honored by Indigenous people, where when it was time for them to pass, it was such an honorable transition. There was support for that. The community came together in an honorable way. There was dignity in the dying process. And once the person crossed over, there was celebration, because there was that knowing that there is no such thing as death. There is a continuation journey. So it behooves us to know more about that continuation journey, which fortunately for me, my connection with my son and the book that he wrote, I Was the Scribe, he teaches an awful lot about that continuation journey. And we're working on the next book where more information about that continuation journey is going to come through to me. And it's so amazing, the information about that, because we have a lot of information about that. And a lot of it is from people who've had NDEs. Well, Spencer's was not an NDE. He completed the process. He went all the way.
Right.
So I feel like his information about this, if I can do my job as a scribe and properly language it, people can start to accept that this reality on the other side is a pretty cool reality. But
Yes.
again, religion has gotten in the way and told us, we're not to know these things, and we don't have the capacity to understand these things. Well, we don't with our little mind, but we sure do with our big mind. And when it's connected to the heart and the spirit soul can shine through and live that for us, then there's a lot of room for that understanding to become understanding. And
I love your play on words. That's beautiful.
It's fascinating. Well, and the language, the way that we have used language to create some horrible things, it's something that I'm hyper aware of because of my time with my son when he was here and then after he left.
Right. That's it. I also want to ask you, because not only do you get people in grief, but you also get people who are in a state of overwhelm, right? So they're just lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess your all your psychological background helps, but you also deal with it from an energetic way.
Mm-hmm.
So if people come to you who are in grief, but what about the people who come to you, they go, Gina, I'm completely overwhelmed. My life should be good, but I'm feeling lost, trapped, empty. How do you guide them to be the best version of themselves and get over it? How do you do that?
It's always about the emotional work. And that's what people are coming to understand. We've come a long way with our discussion of emotions, what they are, where they are. There's a lot of good talk about emotions these days, and there's a lot of modalities and the touching and the tapping and all of this is doing its job to bring people into a greater awareness of what emotions are. However, the most important thing that we can do with emotions is feel them. So I see the name of the emotion as the noun. The feeling of the emotion is the verb. That's the movement. That's the flow. And that's what I go right to work with clients with identifying the emotions, and then asking them, how does that feel? So grief, how does grief feel? It feels heavy.
Horrible, right?
And it's easier than people would think to when I use the descriptors of heavy emotions versus light emotions.
Oh, explain that to us.
Mm-hmm. Because I don't like positive and negative, because it immediately brings this separation. Oh, negative emotions are bad. No, they're not. They're all messengers. So if something happens that evokes anger in you, it behooves you to take action on the anger. But instead, we have all these programs that say, not supposed to, not now, that's inappropriate, later.
Let it go.
And it doesn't go anywhere. It stays right where it was. And the liver is the organ that gets that recipe to actually create the molecule of anger. So you have the world full of people with angry livers, and detoxing the liver on a physical body detox is a really, really good idea, because that filter, we have a lot in the world that is provoking anger in people, and it's not being processed properly.
How do you help them process it? By the way, they've been through something that really makes them angry. And it's making them crazy, and it's affecting their health and every other thing, which they're not necessarily aware of yet.
Right.
How do you help? How do you transform that anger to help them?
Yeah, I have two modalities that I use that are absolutely so powerful. It starts with clearing out the ones that are trapped, that we don't have awareness for. We don't know where they are. We don't understand all of this, but we know that they're there because we're feeling this very heavy density. Grief. There's so many things that we are feeling grief about. Loss of the world that we knew 5 years ago. Loss of people, loss of job, loss of revenue, homes, relationships, families. There has been so much loss, and loss is usually experienced along with grief. And the grief of it is the important emotion. So we start by the emotion code is the modality that I use, where I see it as it is cleaning the energetic field. So the way that I use that modality is a very spiritual level, and I always ask people for permission to connect with them on a soul level. So I'm actually using my spirits, guides, and guards who facilitate all of this for me. We connect with the client's spirits, guides, and guards, which they aren't aware of, but they're there. We all have this huge team. So my team connects with their team. Once they give me a verbal yes, then what the client never knows is I then ask on a soul level, may I connect soul to soul? And because the soul knows what needs to be removed so that that person can experience flow and start to heal. I don't have any idea. At that point, I am just the facilitator. I am very good at listening. And who I'm listening to is the client's spirits, guides, and guards. So we start the process, and whatever they say is to be liberated, is to be removed. So in the field is put, it's in layers, like the rings of a tree. So the outermost layer of the field is time in the womb. And then the closer you get into the physical body is the present time. All in the field, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and yours and others' emotions, because those of us who are empaths and who are, you spend our life, taking everybody else's onto all us. It's in our field too.
Absolutely.
So the process starts with the very first session of Emotion Code. To actually just clean it out. We clean it out. And then I have another form of emotion code that I call interactive emotion code. So I want to engage the clients and empower them in their own power to do this. So, and this has been fascinating since I've started doing this. So we remove fewer emotions because we know that once I let the client know what was removed and how old they were, so they can kind of connect with the experience. They don't have to, but it kind of helps this process for the ego, for the little mind to go, hey, how'd she know that? It's not me. It's coming from the inside of you. So, and that's another way that I'm kind of continuing to work. Even though I'm working on the emotional body, I'm working with the mental body as well, because I want to be friends. I want to be friends because I want to reconnect the emotional body with the mental body. So once we start with the interactive emotion code, once we have cleared out a few, then I'll let the client know, okay, we cleared out fear. What would you rather feel than fear? And it's been so interesting because we're so not familiar. Most people are not familiar with all of the lighter, high vibration emotions. They just
really interesting.
Yeah, they all say, oh, I want to feel joy. I want to feel love. And I'm like, okay, it's really difficult to go from fear to joy. So what is on the other end of the spectrum with fear? And this is usually one I'll give people to let them know where I'm going with this. So if I'm feeling fear, what I would rather feel is courage. Because as soon as I step into the emotion of courage, everything about me changes. And courage is a different energy. It's a different frequency than fear. And eventually, yes, the highest vibrating emotion that's available to us is joy. And since I've started doing this with people and really talking about joy, the energy of joy, the frequency of joy, there are too many people in the world who cannot tell me what joy feels like. They cannot remember if they have ever felt joy. And that's a crisis. That's an emotional crisis. And you cannot fake it. None of these, the speaking of the emotions does not clear the emotions. We must feel them. So we must feel grief. Grief connects us to what we are grieving. If we're grieving, we loved our car and we had a car wreck and it was totaled and we loved that car. We give ourselves time to grieve the loss of that car. People, pets, homes, the world that we knew. The deepest thing that we were grieving is the loss of connection with ourselves, that the self that we came in with, that we knew this was going to be a great ride. This was going to be, all right, we're here. Let's show up and be who we came here to be. And then they start programming it out of us. So,
True.
Doing the interactive emotion code really starts empowering the clients to do this work yourself. So anything that you're feeling that's heavy and dragging you down, stop, acknowledge that I'm feeling shame right now.
So you're actually teaching them to identify their emotions, which they've often not even been in touch with. Right. And it's what you're doing with these different modalities, what you call your fusion sessions.
Yes. So a fusion session, because I also use Biofield Tuning. And Biofield Tuning, again, works in the field, but the tool for that is sound frequency. So the sound frequency, the way that Eileen McCusick is who I got my certification through, and the way that she mapped the biofield with the emotions that are, she calls them shitstorms in the field, as she discovered these shitstorms with somehow magically a certain frequency of a fork will untangle and dissolve that shitstorm, and it becomes movable biophotons. Well, biophotons can then be brought from the field back into the person's central channel, where your energy field runs right through the center of your body. And when it's open and there's flow, the eternal flow in your entire field, it's easy to keep going. It's easier to function in life at a higher frequency. But it's very complicated. Human beings we're multidimensional beings. We are very complicated and complex and beautiful and powerful. We just have forgotten how much power we have. And the power is in all of these unseen, unheard, energetic things. So I like to teach people about that, to feel. And I think it's a good example of, if I'm feeling fear, I would rather feel courage. So
graduate to joy if I can.
Well, yeah. So maybe at the other end of joy is despair. So if I'm feeling despair and hopelessness and sadness, yeah, who wouldn't rather feel joy? But look at how many stairs there are on the way between there. So you have to start where you are. You have to start right where you are. And that's what
you help them to identify where they are.
Yes, because it's not a mental thing. It's not a physical thing. It's like, why can I be so, happy with my body and happy with my possessions and my relationships, and I'm still not happy? Well, there's emotional baggage in there. There's stuff that is not flowing in our energetic field.
And can it also be past life stuff too?
Oh yeah.
That's included there too.
Oh my goodness. And the ancestors, the ancestor energy, the DNA energy, the emotions, that's when it started so many years ago, and other lives. It can be in the field also, because the field is the memory of every experience we've ever had. So our own past life experiences are in there too. And they're pretty easy to identify because they're a pattern for you. And it's something that you've known from the very beginning. This just doesn't feel like me. This just doesn't feel, I'm not in resonance with this. And the human, especially the human, the way I see it, manifested light, it's constantly seeking harmony and coherence. That is what we seek. And we're living in a world of chaos and disharmony. So we're like, the pinballs and the pinball machine, just trying to find our way to what? We don't even know what we're trying to find our way to anymore.
But really, the answer is within us, if we can find peace within us, which is what you're trying to help them to do. And I want to ask you something. It's also fascinating to me, because you help people come up with their own solutions, as you call them. Mm-hmm. So explain to everyone, amongst all the amazing things that you do, you're also an oracle. So could you explain that and how you open your senses to connect with your spirit soul and other soul beings And you ended up helping people to find their own solutions to give themselves guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. And then I want to move on to Spencer. Talk about Spencer.
Yeah. The soul Ushans, I've been practicing yoga since way before it was cool. So I've been practicing yoga about 45 years now. And, we all talk about the chakras, and these are things that lots and lots of people talk about. I renamed several of the chakras. So the solar plexus, I have been told, and now I just call it the soul, because the way that I experience my connection of my soul into my body, and I see it in client work as well, that energy center is the home of the soul. The soul is right there. And so it's SOUL. And then
so it resides in that spot.
Yes.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting.
And it's so interesting because also the energy center directly beneath it that they called the sex chakra, which always, it just takes you to another place. And I call it the sacred, because that's the energy center where your divine gift, you came into this incarnation with a divine gift that your soul is here to share with humanity. And you can only discover that gift, and you can only then nurture it and offer it to humanity once you're very connected to that energy center in an intimate way. Well, intimacy must come with self first. So all of these things, the focus on this is the sex chakra, which meant that, it's only about you and someone else, took us away from the focus of, it's about you and yourself. So the same thing with the soul. So I call it the SOUL-R-plexus. Soul R plexus. This is where your soul are. right inside here. Plexus is place. So it's like, this is the place of your soul. And the color associated is the bright yellow, the sun. This is, where who you are is. So how beautiful to now see that as this is where the light radiates from. And it's by design. It's right next to the heart, and it's right next to the sacred, because those are the two most important to who you are. So reconnecting with that part of us, yours is within you and mine is within me. And I call it the spirit soul because all these years of this, it's a spirit, it's a soul, and then more arguments, more separation, more, no, the soul is this, the soul is it. Oh, no, the spirit is that. And my spirits, guides, and guards whispered to me, it's both. So it's like, okay, so it's the spirit soul. And spirit is everywhere, and it's here. Just like the spirits that my son is now, my dad is now, my mom, many people I know are pure spirit. They're no longer in the physicality, but their spirit self, their spirit soul goes on.
It's here.
And it's here. Yeah, because that connection, and we want to, so many people want to jump to that oneness. Well, we have a long ways to go to fully understand the oneness, because first, taking full responsibility for our little aspect of that oneness, let's do a lot of focus on that. And then when we have purely polished our pearl, because I see the soul as this pearl, that we come in with this pearl right here in the soul. And throughout life, we can either polish it and share it and grow it and expand it and show it off to people, or we can keep it in that little clamshell and, not show it to anybody, keep it buried. Wow.
So when someone comes to you and they need some guidance, and you're guiding them to connect with their own soul then?
Eventually. We don't start there, but that's always what I am letting them know the importance. I'm just going to shine the flashlight, because I created this program I called Journey Back to Me. And this is what I believe we all are ready to do. And we must do first. We must reconnect with ourselves before we can show up in service to others, because The imposter syndrome is very prevalent these days, and there's so many people who are performing versus
they're wearing their mask.
Oh
but
my
they think
goodness.
it's going to work for them in the world, right? And not being authentic.
The symbolism of the mask. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I tried to do some teachings about that when the damdemic first started. And of course it wasn't being well received. So I just kept it in as part of my program. But yes, this masking, this way of performing versus being authentic self. Well, authentic self comes from the soul. It does not come from the little mind. It comes from the combination of all of our information coming in from the capital M mind through the emotional being into the heart and the mind, and then flowing through the soul. Well, the soul cannot do its thing. It cannot take its proper place in orchestrating our life as long as there's this wall around the heart. That's key. And that's the emotional work that is, everyone has to do this work at this time. There's this wall around the heart. In the Emotion Code, he literally, Dr. Bradley Nelson, who created Emotion Code, actually calls it a heart wall. But in my work with clients for the past 5 years with this amazing modality, it can be so many things. It can be a box. It can be buried. It can be a maze. It can be whatever symbolism your soul used to protect that heart. It must be removed. Once the heart is open, then the soul's not something that's trying to come into you. It did that when you were born.
It's there.
It came in with you. It was actually when you were conceived. But so it's not trying to come in. It's time for it to shine out. It cannot do that if there's a blockage around the heart because there's too many disconnects.
Right. But Gina, what happens when a person says to you, Gina, I'm afraid to come that close into my heart and let go of that block because it's going to hurt.
You're
like
right.
Crazy. And people are going to be able to hurt me and all that. What is your response to that? How do you work with them for that?
Yeah, my method of doing that, like I said in the beginning, whenever I do any of this energetic work with people, it's always and only with permission and two levels of permission, one from their ego, physical mind, the other from their soul. So it is just such a wonderful gift to be able to connect soul to soul with people, and then they're making all the decisions. So people will come and say, I want my heart wall gone. I know I have one. I want it gone. I say, well, it will happen when it happens. But there's other people who use this and other modalities to just tear down people's heart walls. And guess what? Those beings go ahead. I'll put it right back and I'll hide it next time. I'll make it 3 layers.
They're not really healing it. They're just taking it away, but it can come back. Right.
Same thing with the concept of, okay, we've cleared and we've cleaned all these things out. Some practitioners will say, so now I'm going to gift you with joy and love and happiness and strength. And it's like, no, that's disempowering. That's like saying, okay, you're a good little person. Now here's a lollipop. It's at the dentist. It's counterproductive. You decide what you would rather have. You do the work. That's how important it is to teach people to reconnect with the emotions. And how we know what emotions are is we experience how they feel. So I will not take a heart wall down. It happens when the being allows it to happen. Now,
so it's a choice. So it's a choice.
It is always a choice. And I have some clients who they're so good at letting it go, and they're just as good as at bringing it back. And sometimes it's within just a few weeks, but now they'll call and they'll say, will you check and see if it's back? And I'll say, sure, give me permission. We'll connect. And it's like, yep, it's back. But when it's back that quickly and they're aware of it, and all they ask for is just a little help in knowing for sure, yes, I'm okay with removing this. Because sometimes as soon as we remove it and we go out there and we have that vulnerability is a beautiful thing. But yeah, it's so scary because we are programmed now to live in fear. We're all bellied up to this all-you-can-eat buffet of fear. So vulnerability.
And it's fed to us constantly.
Constantly.
Instead of the freedom that can come from not being in that space.
Yes, yes. So recognizing that is all a part of how I try to teach about emotional energies, because emotional energies come from one of two places. They are either generated in the place called fear, or they are generated in the place called love. So when we can start getting to know emotions and then asking that simple question, okay, happiness. Do I think happiness is generated in a place called fear? No, I think happiness is generated in a place called love. And it's, there's all of these paths and all of this connecting of all the aspects of ourself that we address in the Journey Back to Me program.
Wonderful. So, oh, wow. So, okay, now that we've talked about all of what you do with your fusion healing and your modalities and all that, I want to talk about your loved Spencer. And let's introduce Spencer to our audience and this amazing story that you have with Spencer. So, could you tell us about him, why he was never able to speak words or move his body independently, how you know that he was a master at the art of being, how you know who he came here to be, which is fascinating because we often are told that certain things happen to us because it's part of a plan, and there are things that we come to learn. And the most amazing part is how you communicate. But now I understand you kind of have the basis for that telepathic ability started with your father. So how did that evolve with Spencer? And then I have more questions for you. So go ahead. Tell us about your relationship with Spencer.
Yeah, the telepathic ability came to me in stages. So there was elementary school, and then there was middle school, and then there was high school, and then there was college. And the telepathic communication, spirit to spirit, started with my dad's clear communications to me, but I didn't know how useful that was going to be to me later. Spencer was 5 years old when my dad passed, 4 years old, and Spencer was born absolutely normal and so excited. And at his four month doctor visit, the injection that he received changed his life.
Oh my God.
And
was it like for a vaccination or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. This was back in 1995. And this was the year when they changed the childhood schedule for those injections from a very small number to triple that number. So the experimentation on human beings was amplified, ramped up. And from that point forward, Spencer did not develop. I knew something was not right. In 1995, there were no resources. There were no one would listen to me. However, we did not inject him with anything else ever. My husband's a veterinarian, and veterinarians inject everything. So I wasn't getting anywhere with him with that idea. And the doctor, after 9 months, the doctor said, okay, I agree with you. Nothing's developing as it should. So let's go and have an MRI. So we went and had an MRI. And then that took us to a neurologist to interpret that MRI. Well, the neurologist didn't have any answer. There wasn't anything clear about Spencer's MRI. And all he did was, Spencer was on that side of the room, and the doctor was on this side of the room looking at the picture of his brain, telling us what he would never do and how terrible his life was going to be. And I was in shock right then, going, what are you talking about? This child is full of prana and life force and energy. And what you're saying, you're trying to send me right into something that I'm not willing to participate in. So we left the neurologist's office, never went back, because we were privileged to be into that hospital, because by then we had all of these physical body, under developments. So it was time to start physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, these things. So we left the neurologist's office. We never went back to doctors. Spencer was healthy. we went to therapists and I started learning. We had 5 sessions a week. So I learned about speech therapy. I learned about physical therapy. I learned about occupational therapy. I learned about the special therapies. We actually brought in the horses and created our own equine facilitated therapy program and became a licensed physical therapy center. We hired a physical therapist because I wanted to work with the children who had these profound needs. Why Spencer couldn't speak, no one ever was able to give us an answer.
Wow.
I learned later when I started, connecting with Spencer and listening to him from the other side and wrote his book, I learned a lot more information about that. And that was a soul choice because not having the ability to speak using spoken words did not mean that he could not communicate. It meant that to communicate with him, listening was such a powerful thing to master. And so that he could make sound when he was younger. He could kind of screech. He could say oh ba or oh ma. And he could growl. If he could growl. So you could at least be in another room. If he wanted his own privacy, he'd sometimes like to be in a room by himself too. But if he could make a sound, we could go. But he had no needs until he was 16. He drove a power truck. He was super healthy. I communicated for him in the beginning and then taught people how to communicate with him. Meant you had to slow down and you had to become a very good listener. So we would ask him a question. You couldn't say, do you want red, white, or green? He would just look at you. So if you said, oh, do you want the red one? And then let him answer yes or no. So it started out with very methodical question and answer, and then letting him participate in making his own decisions because he liked to make his own decisions. He was very independent, even though his body was completely dependent upon others, which is super important. It's part of his soul message is, you people think that you're okay alone and independent and separate, but you're not. So 16 years of that, of just teaching people. And that's when we did the special therapy for other. I only eventually allowed people in the program who their children also were nonverbal and non-ambulatory because it became very important to me to especially work with the parents and let them know your child's not retarded. Your child's not unimportant. They have so much to offer. They're here in their silence to teach you. So don't listen to the doctors when they say they don't understand you because there's 2 forms of communication, expressive and receptive. And most nonverbal children, their receptive communication skills are much higher than ours. Yeah. So if you imagine someone like Spencer, he lived 23 years and never spoke a word. All he did was listen. How intelligent would you be?
Listen and observe and observe and observe. Now, what did he come here to be? Why he chose this experience, right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell everyone, because most people would be like, he chose this? And of course, you did not know that he chose this when this all happened.
Yeah, he did. And he also chose his existence that ended at age 16, because at age 16, he got RSV, and that was in 2012. So RSV is nothing new. They're just now talking about it, and it is another coronavirus. And they tried with that coronavirus, with RSV back then, they tried with an injection that whole game, they tried it in 2012. And somehow people were more interested in the fact that people died in the trials. So they did not create, they didn't get very far with that, but they kept it in the back vault so they could reintroduce it later. So he got RSV. RSV takes the life of a lot of elderly and a lot of people in frail bodies like Spencer's was. So we went into the hospital. He was 16 years old. It was his first experience with a respiratory illness that at that depth. So he ended up coding. And when he coded and actually left, I now know that in that moment, he decided to sign an addendum to his soul contract. So he agreed to come back for another 7 years. And so he came back. We all came to in ICU with Spencer on a ventilator. And so the next 60 days, we tried to extubate him so he could just continue in the life that he had known, not being burdened by the mechanics of a ventilator and a suction machine and oxygen and pulse ox, all the crap that came with it. So that put us on a different path. So he did have to have the tracheostomy. He did have to have the ventilator for the rest of his life, suction, but everything else we DC'd, and we figured it out. We got healthy again, and we decided how to become mobile again with toting that ventilator around with us everywhere. And he, the difference was he could no longer make a sound. So for the last 7 years of his life, he was in complete silence. So whereas before he could gesture or he could grunt or make a sound to let you know he needed something, complete silence for the last 7 years of his life. So that's when our telepathic ability to communicate stepped up greatly. I could be 5 acres away mowing, and he had 2 attendants by his side, and I would hear him that he needed something. So I would come in from the pasture, get off the mower, dust off, go upstairs, and just walk right to him. Yes, Spencer, what do you need? And his attendants would, wait, we're right here. You didn't tell us. What did you need? Well, that was his use of telepathic communication.
Is that one of the reasons he stayed for another 7 years, so that you would hone this ability, do you think?
It was one of the reasons, yes, because and he wrote about it in his book. And it was really surprising to me because I was not aware of that. I was thinking that the entire perspective of what I learned from listening to the silence, from having a child who could not speak words, I thought the whole book was going to be from my perspective as the mother of a child who couldn't speak. And so when he left, he let me know very shortly that it was going to be from his perspective. He was the one who lived in silence. So that was an humbling moment. And writing the book, scribing the book, learning about his perspective for some of those experiences, such as that one, when he coded and came back, I was only aware of my perspective because I knew where I was at that time. I was out in the hall screaming for help to come in, and my husband was holding Spencer and he was gone. And my husband was just frozen in time. And they ended up coming in, rang the code blue and did their thing and resuscitated him and brought him back. And then we all wake up down in ICU and spend the next 60 days there. So Spencer writing about that and saying that he looked back and he saw his dad frozen in where they were together. And he wanted to, and then me and my reaction, he I don't know if he saw the disconnect and all of that and wanted to, we all agreed, our souls all agreed to continue this journey for 7 more years. And yes, it did get much more difficult the last 7 years, but the things we learned were, and my ability to listen to complete silence, because somebody had to be by his side all the time. So I would hear clicks on the ventilator. If I was in my office, 2 doors down, and he was in his bedroom, and I would hear click, 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 I knew he was coughing. So
Wow.
I would get up and I would go in the room, and he would be lying there coughing in silence with somebody sitting right next to him.
Wow.
So I didn't make very many friends in those 7 years because, it was a level of commitment, me to Spencer, and now Spencer is returning that. Now his commitment to me is just as powerful, and in gratitude, we were gratefully connected.
I would imagine you've been connected through many lifetimes.
Yes.
I would think. And let me ask you also, could you share the way he's let you know he's always watching over you? And Alexa, that's such a beautiful story. And anything else you'd like everyone to know about your book, The Spencpirations? Listen to the silence.
Yeah, the book is his doing, and it's 9 chapters. Everything about it has meaning. The number 9 has great meaning, and there's a chapter on numbers and the meaning of different numbers. The book is full of examples and stories he's telling from his perspective of his 23 years here in not being able to communicate with words. But it's very interesting and fascinating. Each chapter is a different way that he uses to communicate and always did. So there's a chapter on shape-shifting, and there's a chapter on orbs. And I think a lot of people are aware of the use of orbs. They may not know, exactly what they are or who they are, but the use of orbs is a pretty pretty kindergarten level, from the spirit side, way of communicating with us. Lights.
So they create these orbs, because I know that when people take a picture with certain cameras, often the orbs are everywhere in the picture.
Oh yeah. And he was using orbs right away, because it was super, super easy for him to use the orbs. And it started with my husband and I were in our big game room, where there was a big TV on the wall. It was our drive-in theater. And it was 2:00 in the morning, and we were preparing the house to put on the market. And I was cleaning, and we were always up late, because for 7 years we were up 24 hours a day, because Spencer had to be turned and suctioned, and so we tended him. So 2:00 in the morning, and no TV was on or anything. We're in this game room, and I turn around, and in the screen of the TV is two orbs. And I'm like, Brian, look at that. And we both knew immediately it was Spencer. And then his message. So he'll get my attention, then a message, a spoken message will come into my extraordinary sense of hearing. And I always know it's Spencer, because I know the direction it comes from, and I know him very well. I had 23 years practice of listening to him.
Right.
So that was the first time he used the two orbs. And then on the 3-year anniversary of his passing, I was living in a little palapa house in Mexico, and my daughter was visiting. And my daughter was still in bed over here, and I was practicing my morning yoga facing the front door. And as I'm doing my yoga, I start hearing the lyrics, Michael Jackson singing, "Sometimes I feel like somebody's watching me." And that's not usually a song going through my mind when I'm practicing yoga. So I knew it was Spencer, because he'll repeat it, and I'm laughing, and I'm like, "Spencer, why in the world are you singing that song?" And he says, "Turn around." I turn around, and here it's 9:00 in the morning, and here's these two orbs looking in the back window.
Wow.
And he says, "I'm always watching you. I've always got your back, and hers too." And he takes my attention to his sister. So now his use of orbs, it is so incredible. I continue to receive the Spencpirations, which are the messages that I receive from him when I know it's him. And I started recording them in 2019. He left February 8th, 2019, and I started receiving the Spencpirations very soon after that. And so his use of orbs this year on the eclipse here in Mexico, you couldn't see the eclipse very clearly like you could in the States. But when I took a picture of it, below the picture of the eclipse that I could not see and you couldn't see in the picture, Spencer's orb has these beautiful colors, and it's moon shaped, and then his orb is actually eclipsed.
Wow.
So he's very, very creative with the use of orbs, because it's
powerful.
Yeah, it's super simple for spiritual beings to use orbs. It's also super simple for them to use what we call the cosmic jukebox in the sky, because lyrics in music are always worth listening to. And if a song is playing and there's one lyric that is a specific message from a spiritual being to you, they'll get your attention. You will hear that one lyric. And Spencer used that when he was incarnated also, because he couldn't use words. And the last 7 years, he couldn't make a sound. So he used music. And he would put music together if there was a whole story he wanted to tell, and it took 3 different songs, then I was to listen to all 3 of those songs until I could put together the message. So it's super easy to still use that from the cosmic. I call it the cosmic jukebox in the sky.
That's so cute.
And people doubt it. And I want people to stop doubting it. Don't think, if all of a sudden something catches your attention and it reminds you of that person, yes, It's a message. They want to be connected and in communication with those that they are still in love with here. And the book is 9 chapters of different ways of doing that. So maybe the spiritual beings that you're connected with or can be more connected with on the spirit side are using some of these methods. Maybe parents who have a child who's a nonverbal communicator are trying to use some of these methods now. I hope that's how the book.
I think I want to ask you also, and then I want to ask you about your retreats and all that you do so people can connect with you. But so spirits on the other side, they create these orbs. What do they look like when they don't create the orbs then? I know that they're energy, right? And then they create the orbs so we can more easily see them and identify them.
I'm not the best person to ask that because I don't have the extraordinary sense of vision.
Okay. And when you could act the clairaudience, not the clairvoyance.
Yes, yes. And sentience and knowing. I have all these other extraordinary senses, but the one of vision, and I made the mistake of complaining a little bit to my spirits, guides, and guards about 3 years ago. I want to see. Why can't I see? You know, I was feeling less than because I couldn't see. And what I got to see, it was during a session that a man had wanted some very nefarious things removed from his being. And I said, that's not my thing. That's not the realm I work in. But I hear them, but I'm not the one who can do that. But I know someone who can. So I brought him someone who practiced shamanism. And when she started pulling this thing out of this man and I got to see it, I'm like, never mind.
I'm glad I don't have that.
I don't need to see things. I'll just stick with my other gifts and be okay with just hearing and knowing that that there are such things.
That's
so I know, right? Yeah. So how they use other ways, how they can move themselves into they're shape shifting. Spencer is able to use other animals to shape shift very easily. And there's different levels of shape shifting. So butterflies, dragonflies, birds, frogs, you know, there's so many different ways to use. So I think it's up to each spirit on the spirit side to be able to use what is per their training. Right. It's very different.
They have choice too. So they can figure out how they want to present themselves, I'm sure, and what works for them. Tell us about your Anywhere Mind, Body, and Soul coaching practice. You have a Journey Back to Me Healing Grief Retreat. You have specialty, you're a busy lady. You have specialty services and anything else you'd like to share with the members of our audience. And I know that you have an amazing discount you're offering for your upcoming Emotional Healing Journey Retreat, which we will provide links for with the show notes and all of that. So tell it all. Great. Let us know.
Yeah.
Gina.
Yeah. Like I said before, the importance of emotional health, it is a thing, and it is a thing that deserves attention. And the modalities of Emotion Code and Biofield Tuning are great ways to start clearing that we don't even know is weighing us down, clearing that out, and then teaching more about that. So using those modalities, people can come to me just for that. That's what my business, Anywhere Mind, Body, and Soul, that's what it's based on. We can be anywhere in the world and take care of ourselves and heal ourselves, go into that healing journey. People who are a little more serious and really want to get deep into their self-healing, that's the 40-day Journey Back to Me program. And I have a lot of people who are doing that as a solo journey, which I think is a very good thing because there's power in the group as well, because people can share that they're having the same experiences as others and we can support each other. But a lot of clients are just wanting one or two of those methods that I use for clearing the emotions. So I have several clients who are choosing to do packages of Emotion Code and Biofield Tuning.
Oh, interesting.
This is so the 40-day Journey Back to Me. In those 40 days, people are going to get 9 sessions with me, and sometimes we're going to do Emotion Code. Sometimes we're just going to do coaching. Sometimes I'm just going to be listening. It's whatever's needed There's 4 10-day periods of focus in the journey. The first is all about the physical body, your relationship with your physical body. The second is all about the emotional body. The third is all about the mental body. And then the fourth 10-day period is about the spirit soul. And that's the time when it's all interconnected, reconnected back into your full being within your soul. And the last thing that I've created is the actual 5-day retreat here at my property here in the mountains in Mexico. And the theme is healing the grief, but it can be any emotional wound. I just know that grief is at least a portion of everybody's emotional wound. We're looking for that core wound. Everyone comes into this existence with a core wound that is to be healed. And that core wound is very related to ancestral wounding as well, because there's just been all of these, history of mankind has been not so much about healing the emotional wounds, more about how to avoid that. So the time is now to let's go ahead and open that up. Yeah, for it to heal, it must be found, opened up, aired out, cleaned out, cleared. The medicine is coming from your own soul. And so come here.
Your soul knows, but
for 5
sometimes
days.
it needs, right? Your soul knows.
Yes, it does. And when we listen to it, because it tries so many ways to communicate with us, that we shut down. And we're not good at discerning whose voice is that, whose message, whose information is that. And it's important to learn. It's important to learn and remember how to discern. And you know what? The answer is all about, how does that feel? If it feels like it might be a tricky trickster, as Spencer calls those energies in the dark world, there are tricky tricksters, and they are not wanting your good. They're wanting to parasitically attach to you and then take your energy. So the lower you are, the more they feed. And so there is so much to know from this side and that side as well. So the 5-day retreats, I think they're very effective when it's 1 or 2 people, because it is intense. It is 5 days of working on clearing emotional wounds, and we have many. And I have a fire pit, and we use the element of fire there and do ceremony and ritual at the fire pit. I live on top of a mountain, and we always have this beautiful breeze and the wind, and we use the element of wind and air for certain rituals. First thing when I got here, I was told to construct a labyrinth, and I didn't even know what a labyrinth was, but I just followed the instructions, went out, gathered large stones, and I now have this amazing labyrinth. And we use that to connect with the element of earth. And let Mama Gaia take from us these heavy emotions. And when people take the journey through the labyrinth, it's a guided journey, and we're intentionally transmuting specific emotions. And as we're going into the labyrinth, which is representative of coming into the center of you, your own soul, go into the labyrinth, we set down that heavy emotion, and we pick up this beautiful fluorite green stone that I have, and then carry that out of the labyrinth. And then we go to another place on the property, and we do a water ceremony. And we drink moon water and crystal water that's infused with, again, there's just all of these things are a part of the journey to give people complete guidance of purging and clearing and cleaning the emotional body and reconnecting it with the physical body. And if someone chooses, they can do that retreat and then do it as the beginning of their journey back to me. So they'll be here 5 days, and then when they leave, they still have me showing up in their inbox for another 35 days, and we do more sessions throughout those 40 days. So it's time to get deep in it, because they are deep within us.
Right. Is your emotional healing journey retreat coming up soon?
Well, it's whenever somebody wants to come. I'll be doing them in December, January, and February. And I have room in, I think, January and February. I may have December filled. But for a promotion for your listeners and the people who are hearing this and who are interested, if someone comes as a group and they have, say it's a family, or say it's two mother daughters, however it would configure. If it was a group of 4, I'll give them the price of 3.
Oh, that's lovely.
And if it's a group of 6, I'll give them the price of 4.
And we will support this on the show notes and all that when people get the information.
Yeah. Also, anyone who wants to contact me for a complimentary session, I always do an emotion code during that complimentary session. But the first 3 people that contact me in the next 30 days, I will gift them with a 3-session emotion code package.
That's lovely.
So
thank you.
So not only the complimentary, but then do 3 more. And I tell everybody that most people, the heart wall will come down within 6 sessions. Most people. Sometimes it's 4 sessions. Sometimes it's 5. Sometimes it's 8. But generally by 6, because we've really gotten in there and found some of those emotions that are in the way of the heart. That's not necessarily the core wound, but the core wound is really important we have to heal it, because hurt people. And if we each get to work on healing what is making us hurt, then we'll stop hurting others.
Not only that, though, it makes your journey into the next lifetime a lot easier, doesn't it? Because you're not carrying all of that wounding, where they're more or less, you have to learn the lessons all over again because you didn't get it here. This is an opportunity to cleanse yourself from all of that.
It is. And I've learned so much about that, the things that are happening on the other side from Spencer. Because it was revealed to me why so many things that he loved so much, why they were important to him now. I've gotten to know, and a lot of the stories are in the book, some are not. But what I did learn is that his being, his soul, is a part of a collective, and it's a collective of watcher beings. And the watcher beings are very high on the scale, if we can see things in hierarchy, but they're right next to source. They're very, very important, and they have this huge affinity for human beings, which is why they choose to have existences like Spencer had, potentially a lot of suffering, but more important, the potential for learning and observation. So he got to spend 23 years in a body that could do nothing but be. So the doingness was just not even part of the formula. He was not going to be able to do anything. But for his own survival and joy, the doingness, he found people. He made a team who did all of his doingness for him. Isn't that clever?
That was very clever. Let me ask you, very clever. Let me ask you, because you said something that really struck me when I was working on your interview. You talk about that it is the time to remember the special meaning of the word human. And I know you're talking about the aura, right? Okay, and some people don't quite understand all about that. Can you explain that to everyone? And then if there's any other special offer you have for our audience or anything like that, let us know. And then I want to ask you about joy.
Yeah. The definition of human is hue is actually H-U-E. H-U-E is light. It's the color of light. Man is for manifestation. So our soul, when our soul comes into a body and decides to come and have a physical human experience, it is the manifestation of light. That's what being human is. But we forget that. We snuff it out. We push it down. We hide it. We conceal it. We're afraid to shine our light. So now we're at that process of realizing and remembering, oh yeah, we're this spark of light. And if we want to shine it, we have to get the wall around the heart out of the way so that our soul can emerge, and it emerges as this beautiful being of light. Human. manifested
Beautiful.
light.
That's
Mhm.
beautiful. I never heard that. It's wonderful. It really makes sense.
And sound is just light slowed down. So sound is super important too, which is why the biofield tuning is so effective, because harmonizing this human, harmonizing the light being that we are, it wants to be harmonized. It wants to hear beautiful frequencies. And when we do, we get to experience the frequencies of joy, the frequencies of elation, awe, wonder, happiness, vibrancy. These are all these frequencies that are like, the butterflies and the
Right. Tell me, Gina, what is your tip to people for finding joy and being in joy in their lives?
Spencer gave this to me directly. And the first chapter in his book is What is Joy? It's not enjoy. It's not ENJOY. It's be in joy. So to be in joy, we look for it. We look for that frequency, and we know when we're in joy, INJOY, because we feel it. So when we allow ourselves to actually be in joy, and I started, after he told me this, I started just one day, just everyone I passed, I said to them, be in joy.
That's beautiful.
How we'll come in restaurants and, enjoy your meal or whatever, or tell people, oh, enjoy your day. No, be in joy. And that little shift. Yeah. Don't you know it? Don't you feel it?
Absolutely.
You know how to feel joy, or you wouldn't ask.
Right. Well, Gina, in closing, I actually have this inspiring quote from Listen to the Silence, Messages and Miracles from Spencer, who never spoke words. And this is the quote that directly correlates to what you just said. And the quote from the book is: seek joy, receive joy, give joy, be joy. Go for this highest vibratory frequency that you can use to soar to the place called love whenever you want to. Do this often so that you can remember that the essence of love is what you always were, are, and always will be. And joy is the emotion you deserve to experience most often throughout your earth days, months, or years. Be the joy, be the essence of love that we were all born to be. Thank you so much, Gina, for this important work that you're doing to help heal the emotional wounds of humanity in order to stop that tragic cycle where hurt people hurt people. And I also want to thank you from my heart for this incredibly enlightening, insights-filled interview today. As I like to say to everyone, to be continued. Thank you again, Gina.
Thank you.
Many blessings.
My pleasure.